everybody. Welcome to the Cybertruck special episode 165 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Western Australia's WAEV network has further progressed with Horizon Power's off-grid 50 kilowatt tritium fast DC charger site in Overlander Roadhouse now fully commissioned and open to all EVs to use. Western Australia's WAEV network has further progressed with Horizon Power's 150 kilowatt ChemPower fast DC charger site in Norseman now fully commissioned and open to all EVs to use. This brings the total number of stations currently active to 23 out of the project final plan of 49 sites. Tesla has been awarded the contract to supply the Melbourne Renewable Energy Hub with a 600 megawatt, 1.6 gigawatt hour Megapack based battery energy storage system. When completed by the end of 2025, this will be one of the worldwide top 10 battery energy storage projects ever installed. In a low-key event at its Austin Gigafactory, Tesla quietly delivered a dozen Cybertrucks to some order holders who were prepared to attend the event at short notice. Oh, and that was this week's news. Yes, not much happened this week. I really don't know what the fuss is about, but yes, welcome to Ask Us Anything. As is customary, if you are new and you're comfortable introducing yourselves, please unmute and say hello in the next 5 or 10 seconds. Or perhaps a little bit later. So, yeah, I don't know. What's all the fuss about? Just some oversized DeLorean, really, isn't it?
If it awesome.
It's got plenty of steel.
It does. And look, let's
And it's bulletproof.
yes, well, there are a few.
As long as the bullets are subsonic, that's the qualification.
That's right. So, with that, what we might do is just go through a few of the videos that were presented during the actual delivery event, because that's a lot of fun, and a few other little info bits as well, infographics. But before I do that, what I would do is remind everyone that there is I guess you call it the Highland, I think it's called the Model 3 Plus, I don't remember now what it's called, but it's basically the Highland Model 3 reveal event at the Osborne Park showroom at Tesla, and it starts at 5:30 and runs to 7:30 this Friday. That's the 8th, I think it is. And it's essential that you are either a Tokwa or a Toka member to attend. So
A financial
financial member, sorry. Yeah, thanks, Pete. So you need to be a financial member, not just a Facebook member. Not that being a Facebook member is a trivial thing, but what I mean is you need to be a financial member to qualify. And that's either a Toka or Toka member. So please do come if you can. It's going to be great to see the new car. It's the first time it will be shown in Perth. Chuck, I'm going to take your apology already, because I think you might be attending a certain similar event in Hobart 3 hours before us, which should be pretty exciting.
That's right. I'll be on the way home by the time you guys start.
Well, it's actually the same time. It's just that he happens to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
So.
that's it.
That's exactly right. So please go, Chuck.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's actually one of our members in Hobart who said he can't make it because he'll be in Melbourne. And I'm like, well, you just book a test drive if you're in Melbourne. You don't need to worry about anything else there. Jeez. They're even more ahead than us.
Absolutely. And just as a reminder to anyone who might be reluctant because they know that there's not much parking at the actual showroom, there is ample parking in the parallel street to Main Street to the west. So in other words, just one street across towards the beach, and you've got plenty of parking, and it's just a 50-meter walk to the showroom. All right. So let's get down to a couple of things in no real order. There's a few videos that were presented, and this is one of them.
I need everybody to clear out. Range is hot.
We've already tested shopping carts and we've tested door dings. Today we're going to get a chance to test the actual bullet performance. So when we first started the design for Cybertruck, the goal was to come up with something that had an exoskeleton. We had to make a custom alloy to make it more ductile. While we're at it, we also made it a bit more corrosion resistant. So this is a 300 series. Our panels are up to 1.8 millimeters thick. So actually carrying structural load, not just there for aesthetics. Obviously we didn't design it to be bulletproof, but if it works out in the end, it's just icing on the cake. So we've got a couple guns here to go through, starting with a 9mm Glock, shotgun, double-aught buck, and of course, Tommy gun, 45 caliber. So we'll get all these through tested today and we'll see the results.
Range is hot. Clear.
I was really nervous. It's hard to say how nervous I was, but it worked out. We took a Tommy gun to the side of this truck and everything looks intact. All right, moment of truth. It's pretty good. This one intense.
Yes.
Happy? So that's 9mm, 115 grain from a Glock. Looking pretty good. We've got one spot where we got a double hit, and so we've got a little bit of cracking. Everywhere else, we've just got a crater. Looks good. All right, so this was an MP5. It's the same 9mm, 115 grain. It's going a bit faster. We've got only a 4-inch barrel, but an 8-inch suppressor on that. So you can kind of see, obviously, a bit more tighter grouping, but yeah, still no penetration, so looking good. This is a 12 gauge M4 shotgun with double-aught buck. Took 5 rounds, held up pretty well. We had one where we got 2 of the buckshots hit right in the same spot. Got a bit of a through hole there. Let's see if it made it all the way through. Well, the inside of the panel's good. There's no hole here. Let's see about the glass. Yeah, we got a little crack in the glass, but it held. All the windows are intact. Everything functions just as it did when we started here. So I call it a success. So don't believe the movies. When you shoot a normal truck, the bullets go in one side, straight through, and out the other side. You cannot hide behind the vehicle to be safe, so it's something to keep in mind. Unless you're in a Cybertruck.
Hey.
Alrighty. So that's the first video. That's obviously the well, just a testament to the strength of the door skins.
Harold, someone's. Do you mind muting the microphone? Someone's got a radio in the background.
Yeah, Warren, can you please mute or just turn the sound off in the background because it's coming through. Awesome. Okay, so then
That's got huge towing capacity.
the next one we're going to do is the truck pull. So, and this is a huge sport in America, believe it or not.
This is a self-propelled sled. It pulls itself backwards. This weighs about 35,000 pounds. As the box moves forward, it increases the weight onto the pan, which is here on the ground, causing the driver to go no further.
The sled will always win. It's got so much weight behind it. The mark of success here is as far forward along the track as you can get.
today we've got a couple vehicles.
All right, so that's obviously showing just how impressive the power of the Cybertruck is. Now we've actually
what's really
Go,
impressive there, Harold, is that the Cybertruck actually had to turn because it ran out of track. And when you start turning, you lose a massive amount of momentum when you're and traction when you've got something like like that on the back of you. So yeah, probably would have been able to go a lot further had it had more track.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, if my computer will just sort itself out in 2 seconds. Actually, let's just carry on. Sorry about this. Now we've also got obviously one of the great things that was shown with the Cybertruck or announced or revealed was the fact that it has steer by wire, and that means that there's no direct linkage between the steering wheel. There is no steering column through to the actual rack of the steering mechanism. And there's a couple of graphics here. This one is showing what happens when you're going at a higher speed, because not only is there steer by wire, but it's also got 4-wheel steering. So you can actually see, and this was shown in a couple of the videos, that you've only got 370 degrees lock to lock. So you only have,
170 degrees.
340 degrees lock to lock. So it's 170 each way, which means you don't have to actually, you don't cross your arms. So you just go like that. That's one full turn to the left, then center, and then one full turn to the right, or hard lock. And when you're doing highway speeds, basically the 4 wheels turn in the same direction. And then when you are at slower speeds, they actually turn in the opposite direction. So that actually dramatically reduces your turning circle, which is pretty cool. Now I just got to check something, because this is hot off the press and it's literally just been confirmed right now, and that is
Whatever it is, I'm on the edge of my seat, Harold.
Yeah, sorry, I've Brussels sprout. Computers, gotta love them. Okay. That there is an image of a Model Y just a few minutes ago successfully charging at the North Coogee supercharger site, which is now open and running.
Oh, good.
And that's just a few minutes old, that photo. So
I
great
recognize
news.
that performance.
Yay! My own personal supercharger is now. I mean, sorry, everyone's.
No, Richard, you're right. You're like me.
I've had a beer, or I'd go around and test it.
As of yesterday, these panels weren't up and it wasn't ready. So it is now fully functional. I think there is one store, however, that's not operational if it still is today, but that's fine.
Oh, is
basically,
it in the app?
that's. Sorry?
Is it in the app?
Saying if it was in
No,
the app.
no, it's not in the app. No. So it's not on the app. And actually, Paul, you're in your car. Is it on the map on your car? Probably not.
Chargers. Not yet. No, not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Not yet.
Yeah, and look, that's understandable. It takes a day or two for that to actually appear on Tesla's system. But the great news is you can use it now. It's the North Coogee, I think it's called North Coogee Village. If you just put in Woolworths North Coogee, then you can go straight to it. So that's great news, literally hot off the press. Now, let's see if we've got anything else.
Now, there's 6 stores there, Harold, isn't there?
6, yes, that's correct.
5 of the 6 operational.
I believe so, yes. Well, I believe one of them is not operational, but I haven't tested each one of them. I think Rob's only tested 3 of them, and all 3 that he tested were working. So that's great news, and that's Perth's second supercharger.
Good.
That's kind of sad news because up until today, there were 9 superchargers nationally under construction in Australia, which I think was a record for simultaneous builds.
Oh, well, there
So,
you go. So that's 8.
No, there's only 8. Yeah,
Oh,
Damn shame.
that's funny because a week ago I said, "Oh, there's 6. That must be a record, and that'll be the record forever." But no, we found 3 more during the week. So, yeah.
And there was Australia's first V4 was installed during the week.
Yeah,
Albury.
V4. Yep. Yeah, in Albury, 16 stalls.
I guess that's got some relevance to Cybertruck, right? Because if every V4 from now is if every supercharger from now is a V4, then that prepares us for Cybertruck.
Oh, well, actually, and this is another, that's correct, but there is another good piece of news, which is something that I'm not going to brag, but I mentioned this probably a year or more ago on Ask Us Anything, is that the Cybertruck 800 volt pack actually splits into 2 packs or goes into parallel from a series mode. So there's 2 modes. There's a series mode, which has 2 400 volt packs in series to get you 800 volts. That gets your advantage as far as efficiency on the drivetrain. So there is less cabling required to go to the drive units, or less copper. So that's a good thing. But internally, it will then change to a parallel mode if it needs to charge at a 400 volt class charger, whether that's an old V2 supercharger, V3 or 2 supercharger, or standard fast AC chargers that are limited to 500 volts. So you'll get the best of both worlds. It'll charge at full rate on the lower voltage fast AC chargers and at an enhanced rate. So on the WEV network, for example, you'll get the full 150 kilowatts in a Cybertruck, which is great news. Okay, I've got a few images. So we've got this. That's, as we saw in that infographic, that this is the steer-by-wire. And one great thing about it is, even though this is the bulkhead and it's looking from the inside out. So you can see over here, that's where the steering mechanism goes. And then it's basically asymmetrical. Now that sort of could sound bad because the Model S and X also had asymmetrical bulkheads. And, we know what happened to that. But having a look closely, this is an image of the front in the reverse direction. This is looking towards the back of the car. You can see here, this is actually the compressor, and you've got your pipe work going into the bulkhead, which is basically here on this side. So all you've got to do is swap this around. So this just has to swap sides, and then you can basically get the steering column where it should be on the right-hand side, like in this image right here. And then just cruising around, there's a little bit more detail there. That's just up here is where the actual force feedback steering box goes. So, look, it's really good news. It means that it's vastly more likely that Cybertruck actually will come to Australia. And, don't be fooled by some articles in, I don't know if it was drive.com.au, I think it was, that sort of said, we've spoken to multiple Tesla sources and there are no plans to bring Cybertruck into Australia. Well, they don't have a right-hand drive version yet, so of course there are no plans, you idiot. It's got nothing to do with long-term plans, notwithstanding the absolute cluster that was the cancellation of the right-hand drive program with S and X. That was a terrible thing. Tesla should not have done that. There's no real reason to believe it's going to happen for a second time.
Well,
So,
Harold,
because I was checking the. Oh, sorry. You go, Rich.
No, you go, Paul.
I was just going to say, because I'm Cybertruck
curious, of course. I was checking like the websites, like the vehicles or upcoming vehicles for the different regions around the world and that sort of stuff. And I saw Cybertruck in Australia, and then I checked Thailand, and then Japan, and then like UK, and just like other sort of right-hand drives. Oh, New Zealand as well, and they all had it on there. So I sort of was wondering, hoping that because they all sort of say like get updates and that sort of stuff, and even China, which was interesting.
Well, China's left-hand drive, so that's a different setup. But look, if Tesla, well, to be frank, if Tesla, after having all the websites up and we've got the website, this is the live website now. This is showing it in metric figures. This is the Australian site. If Tesla cancelled the Cybertruck,
cool.
That it's not going to be pretty for Tesla. Let's just put it this way. We
like
I guess.
I want my.
Well, they can make a mistake or do the wrong thing once with two models, but I don't think they're going to try and go for a trifecta. I really don't. And anyone that says things like, oh, well, it can't meet pedestrian standards, like the tough European pedestrian standards and all that sort of stuff. Well, be that as it may, all you need to do is go and look at how many F-150s, Ram 1500s, Ram 2500s, Silverados, and those huge behemoths that are already in Australia, and they are licensed. So there's zero reason to believe that the Cybertruck wouldn't also be licensed to be used in Australia.
And the biggest threat to pedestrians is how high the front of the car is. And the nose of the Cybertruck, if you compare that to an F-150, is like half a foot lower than the F-150 because it goes down rather than just being a wall. So you're much better off being hit by something with a profile like that rather than being hit by a wall.
Yeah, and NHTSA in America actually did a study and showed that the sloping bonnet gives us something like a 43% less chance of injury or death.
Who was that? NHTSA.
NHTSA.
Yeah, right. There you go. You're muted, Harold.
Sorry, you can imagine if it's a vertical face and then a right angle, well, it's going to basically snap your back or snap your spine. Whereas, like you say, Nigel, if there's a slope, it's a much gentler interface with the bonnet as your body sort of slaps against it, basically. As gentle as that could possibly be, when you're in a car accident.
So Nigel, that 43% less chance of injury, what was that in comparison to?
No, it was just in comparison. If the bonnet slopes,
gotcha,
as opposed to it going straight across, like in a F-150 or what have you, where it's like that, as Harold says, you've got a much greater chance of injury or death when it's not sloped.
So the chance of injury or death would have to be a lot higher than 43% compared to something like an F-150, because the F-150 is not only a wall, but it's a lot higher. So it gets you, where your internal...
The study that I read just said a sloping bonnet overall, all the vehicles was, I think it was 43% less chance of injury and death.
Yeah.
I think 43, don't quote me on that. I think it was on X. I saw that.
And look at the Hummer in the background. Look how tall the Hummer is in the background.
Yeah.
And that's further away, so that should be smaller or lower. But it's,
Oh, it's a beast. Yeah, that Haggerty video is very good.
No, Paul, the beast was just on the right, mate.
No, I was saying the Haggerty video was very good because they're car guys, so they do not like Elon and Tesla and stuff like that. It was very well balanced but very entertaining. It was good.
What was very telling was there was a interview on the Car Mudgeon show.
Yep.
And they had Jason Camisa there, and he spoke very frankly. He basically said, look, when we were given the Cybertruck, I I did not like it. I thought, what am I going to do? You know, and then I decided I was just going to just say the facts. I was not going to give my opinion. You don't really want to bite the hand that feeds you. So I'm just going to give the facts, not going to give my opinion. But as we started testing and playing with it, I started liking it more and more. And he absolutely loved it in the end. And yeah, it was probably the most telling interview I've heard. Someone who's such a internal combustion engine guy to be converted with one car, and you know, someone who understands cars, you know, who's a car guy, and cars are his living, his life. For someone to be converted like that, it was yeah, quite an amazing interview to watch.
Yeah.
And the fact that he actually, like you say, Pete, he was concerned, like, how was he going to do this review when he just wasn't into it whatsoever? And he thought, oh, maybe I'll just try and just keep to the basic facts and just present it that way, sort of like as a straight up sort of thing. And then he completely turned around to absolutely being unbelievably impressed with all the technology. And I did note, he did sort of say that if he said, you know, if he was an engineer working for one of the other companies, he'd just go and hang himself because, you know,
Because
they're
they're
so far behind. You know?
Yeah.
And one of the great things that Tesla's introduced, and this has actually made the steer by wire practical, is the fact that they've gone to a universal 48 volt power architecture for the low voltage electronics. But combined with that, they've also gone to an Ethernet communication system. Bearing in mind, Ethernet is 1 gigabit per second, and the fastest CAN bus that the cars that we are currently driving in is 500 kilobits per second. So that's half a megabit per second compared to 1,000 megabits per second.
So was that 2,000 times faster?
So it's 2,000 times faster. And as Elon Musk has described, what it basically means is, in the past, where you've got time critical functions where you want low latency and high reliability, especially in things like your ABS systems and traction control and throttle and all that sort of stuff, you've got to have more point-to-point connections between controllers on their own sort of CAN bus, so to make sure that you get that reliability. Now with a party line Ethernet, it really just cuts down the complexity of the cabling. They can also use power over Ethernet. So some of it would just be almost standard Ethernet cabling or modified Ethernet cabling, including the power.
You mean Ethernet over power?
No, power, PoE, power over Ethernet.
PoE, yeah.
So that's another great thing. And, you know, in the Haggerty video, I think it was that video, or it might have been the Top Gear one, they actually showed that Tesla had sent to all the CEOs of all the other car companies an instruction manual on how to introduce 48 volt systems into cars, bearing in mind that 12 volt systems basically made it into mainstream cars 70 years ago, since before then they were 6 volts. So, you know, that's one of the great things that Tesla's done with this Cybertruck.
Just on the speed of the cable, you must probably get 10 gigabits out of it on that distance.
Probably.
Yeah, but they'll probably go for just the standard 1 gigabit per second, just for reliability. Absolutely.
It's
and, you know,
all about the latency, not the bandwidth.
Yeah,
exactly, Ken. And the thing is, they can do things like shift audio. They can, like, just everything will just be on Ethernet. And it just, like, what Elon Musk basically said when he was asked by Sandy Munro was, all he's done is he's brought these cars into the 21st century. I mean, we've had Ethernet for decades, you know, and cars just don't have it yet. And now the Cybertruck does.
Any redundancy in that you're aware of?
Oh, well, undoubtedly on the critical stuff. Well, speaking of redundancy, the steer-by-wire is double redundant for the actuators on the front and triple redundant on the control systems. So you can guarantee, and in fact, I think it was described as if 2 sensors or 2 systems are at odds, they'll use a third one as to arbitrate and actually, you know, make up its mind. But have no doubt, if your battery pack stops working, if the 48-volt system goes down, there will be local power redundancy at the at the steering column or the actuator and at the rack. So
it's a good point to make to put people's minds at ease in regards to this, is that steer-by-wire has been used in aviation for
decades.
Decades.
Yeah, and that's more critical. If you stop controlling an aeroplane, it crashes. Well, literally it plummets out of the sky.
What's the ADR rules though on steer-by-wire?
There's no impediment whatsoever. That there is zero impediment.
Okay.
So that's, we did check that. We saw that Twitter thread. There's a Twitter thread about that, Richard, that I forget who it was. It was either TechOU or Sydney EV actually posted up the actual ADR on steering, and there is zero impediment for a steer-by-wire. And in fact, I think this
mind as well is that no one's really seemed to talk about yet. Is it going to get built in Shanghai?
I hope so.
I hope so.
That would be awesome. But look, I'll take an American build one. I'm not fussy. I don't care. Don't know. Let's go to another video, which is actually reprises a quite famous video from a few years ago. But I must admit, when I first saw it, I mean, we've all seen it, already. But when you see it for the first time, you just get the hairs on the back of your neck just rising up, because it is just awesome, at least the first time.
And then Harold, Mike asked a question in chat.
But wait, there's more.
So the best way for a brand new Porsche 911 to beat a brand new Porsche 911 is for it to be towed by a Cybertruck. All right, so Steve,
2023 Porsche 911. It was a
current model. So Mike asks, okay, question about windows refusing to close all the way up when you lock the car. Usually one window refuses to close all the way.
Reboot Windows.
So, sorry?
Nothing, I'm just just reboot Windows.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. So you can go into the service section of your screen, and there is a reboot. I think it's something called almost exactly reboot Windows. So you can recalibrate the windows, and you just follow the prompts on the screen. So you just initiate it. The windows will go up and down a bit. Just make sure you're not got fingers or hands or whatever, anything else in the way, and it'll recalibrate the windows, and then that will probably fix it.
Actually, Harold, on that point, do you know why astronauts use Linux instead of Windows? Because they can't open Windows in space.
Oh, dad joke.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom.
Oh,
Harold, disconnect him.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Pete. It's time for you to go. Okay, we've got Andrew. Andrew's iPhone has patiently put its hand up. So Andrew, go. Once you unmute.
Gone to sleep. Gone to sleep. Oh, he's run off.
Okay, that's all right. No worries.
That's okay.
Andrew might join us a bit later. Okay, so let's just get to the specs of the Cybertruck, and we'll go to the Cyberbeast first. 515 Ks. It can tow nearly 5 tons. which is just awesome. Now they do have a range extender, so you can get 705 kilometers. That's using a 50 kilowatt pack, which we'll have a look at in a sec. You've got your 2.7 seconds, 0 to 100. Top speed doesn't matter, but it's adequate. It weighs just over 3 tons. You've got the 18.5-inch center touchscreen, 9.4-inch rear touchscreen. You've got bucket loads of ground clearance. I think it's 17.5 inches. And that's with no diff that hangs down. So that's true ground clearance. And don't be fooled by the charging speed being 250 kilowatts max. Lars, I forget his surname, but one of the engineers, tester engineers, actually confirmed that it will charge at 350 kilowatts on the version 4 superchargers. And you got your 4-year.
They were talking 15 to 85%, so to recharge 70% of the pack in between 18 and 20 minutes.
That's right. Whereas this 206 kilometers in 15 minutes, that's well and truly understated. But that would be on a standard version 3 supercharger. And you got your warranty, same as what similar to what we have, 4 years, 80,000 Ks for everything, 8 years and 240,000 Ks on the battery and drive unit.
So that 240,000, that's quite a bit longer. Is that longer?
Twice. I think it's about double for than Model Ys and 3s get. Oh, and by the way, the Cyber Beast, it's a tri-motor. The front motor is a permanent magnet motor, and the rear dual motors on the back are induction motors. So basically, what it means is
like any other plaid.
Yeah, no, the plaids are actually all permanents. So in the Model S and X plaid, all 3 motors are permanent magnet. In the Cybertruck, Cyber Beast, the rears are induction, the front is permanent. The reason for the difference is permanent magnet motors are more efficient in providing power, but they have some magnetic losses when they're freewheeling. So the Cyber Beast will go generally in front-wheel drive mode while you're just cruising around on the highway. And then when you want the grunt, it'll invoke the induction motors at the back. The all-wheel drive version is actually reversed. It's only 2 motors, 1 front, 1 rear. The front is induction, and then the rear is permanent magnet. And so that means that it'll mostly drive around in rear-wheel drive mode. The range is slightly better, I think, from memory. You get 547 Ks or 755 with the range extender. The acceleration is a paltry 4.3 seconds, and everything else is basically similar. The towing is the same, so it's nearly 5 tons. And all the other specs are very similar. And then you've got the rear wheel drive, which is going to come in a couple of years' time, well, in America, and that's 402 Ks, 6.7 seconds. And that's just a permanent magnet rear drive only. So there you go.
Cyber Beast or nothing. Cyber Beast or nothing.
Yeah, now I'll get there is a pack. Oh, now actually, there's something that's really, really, I wouldn't call it earth-shattering, but well, it's a significant development which we might get in some of the other models. And I'm hurriedly just trying to scroll through to find where it is, and that is the vehicle to home and vehicle to load feature that the Cybertruck has.
And vehicle to vehicle.
Well, yeah, but that's just AC basically. Where is this thing? Oh, here we go. Powering your site. Oh, it's probably. I've just realised it's not on the Australian version of the website. Sorry, I just got to go to the American version. And they call it PowerShare. Sorry about this little delay. Here we go. Okay. So you can basically have bi-directional power to your house using it. You control it with the Tesla app, and I think it shows it here. You can get 11.5 kilowatts of continuous power, which is really adequate for most houses. And you can also use power tools, and you can go camping and also charge other vehicles. So at the moment, this back outlet here is a NEMA 1450. I think it's good for 40 amps. And then you've got two 110 volt outlets. And then through the actual charge port, which sort of, it doesn't really show it, but where the wall connector is, that's where you can actually get power coming back out to your house. Now, to have that work, all you need is either have a modern Powerwall system, or you can have a gateway. You can just buy a Tesla gateway and the Generation 3 wall connector, and then you'll need a grid isolation switch. Actually, I think the gateway will actually do that for you. And then if there's a power outage, you can then run the house on the power from your Cybertruck up to 11.5 kilowatts.
And if you needed more than 11.5 kilowatts, buy two Cyber Beasts.
Yes, well, in fact, actually, you can use 11.5 kilowatts through the charge port, and you can still get, at least in America, you can get 9.5 kilowatts from the other outlets simultaneously.
11.5 kilowatts is the inverter capacity of the Powerwall 3, isn't it? I wonder if it's the common component.
No, they're using the onboard charger. So all the chargers in our cars, the one final stage uses diodes instead of transistors. Had they used transistors, you could have flow going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So with the Cybertruck, they've now obviously fitted transistors instead of diodes, which means you've got bidirectional flow.
Yep.
What's critical is we're not going to see the Cybertruck for a few years, but it is possible and plausible that this power share feature may come out in models Y and 3 in the near future. They just have to change the inverter in the penthouse in the cars.
That'll be 11 kilowatt 3-phase.
Don't know. So clearly in America, in fact, in America, they've got to faff around a little bit. If you want to actually do power sharing, you need to fit, I think it was Drew Baglino said this, you need to fit an auto transformer, because on the American silly, well, with all due respect to Americans, their silly split phase system, there's no neutral connection to the car. So you need to have an auto transformer connected to your house, or fitted to your house, so that you can actually produce neutral, which is a safety feature. In Australia, under the CCS2 or the Manikes Type 2 connector, you've got multiple phases, neutral and earth. And that's something that you just don't have in the American NACS system. So I guess you could say vehicle to, well, at least home as a UPS type, well, not quite UPS, but switchable is going to be a reality in Australia. Hopefully they'll have vehicle to grid as an option as well, and let us participate in grid services for which Tesla can make money and we could make money ourselves. But that would require, regulatory approval.
Not in WA.
Yeah, and good luck with that. And speaking of which, the Right Honourable Bill Johnson has retired as the Energy Minister, and in fact he's retiring from politics. So there will be, this is just a bit of local news, there will be a new Energy Minister. What we need to do, once we find out who that is, we need to approach them and ask them to do what they need to do, which is extend the WA EV network project to the Great Northern Highway. Yep. And that's something that we need to do.
100%.
You know, because as we had in the news, we are now approaching the halfway mark. In fact, within the next couple of weeks, we will actually be beyond the halfway mark for the WAEV network. And what better time to announce at the halfway point to basically say, hey, we're celebrating, we're halfway, but actually we're not, because we're going to add another 8 charging locations for less than $5 million to include the Great Northern Highway.
Is that want to have business traffic going on it, like more than saving a little bit of time going around the coast, or is it both?
Well, it's basically the reason to do it is you get equity of access to EVs travelling through that central part of WA. You get the economic benefit of, for example, tourists doing a loop from Perth along the coastal route to Karajini National Park, yeah, and then go downwards. But you've also got, mining companies are electrifying everything. You've got people that do drive in, drive out. Now, the great news is with the Norseman WEV network charger complete, you can now basically go from Perth to Kalgoorlie unbroken by fast DC charging, and you can now go the long way to Esperance via Coolgardie. Now, again, just to beat this drum one more time, the Ravensthorpe WA EV network Kempower 150 kilowatt fast DC charger was installed and ready to go, ready to be commissioned on the 9th of October, and it's still waiting for Western Power to install the transformer. And there is currently no sign of that happening this side of the Christmas holidays. So, when Esperance is at its peak tourist season in summer, it seems it's precisely when the Ravensthorpe fast DC charger will not be able to be commissioned. And that is a travesty for the Esperance region. And for us as EV drivers, we have to basically drive an extra 200 kilometres via Coolgardie to be able to access Esperance properly. So again, whoever the energy minister is, we need to make them aware of that case and to ask that they instruct Western Power to pull their finger out. Alrighty, so has anyone got any questions or comments so far? On anything?
So you touched on this earlier about the 48 volt low voltage architecture being, should I say, critical in one of the critical aspects that's enabled steer-by-wire. Hence why people have been saying that, well, this means we'll get SNX in Australia because they'll just do steer-by-wire next. But that's probably not as easy as that, is it?
No, because they basically, it's probably more of a redesign than the refresh that they did.
Yep.
And it's also not going to come, I don't see it coming to, for instance, the Juniper Model Y, because it's just such a major structural change. It's changing everything. And to change everything, that there would be some cost savings, but the costs to have to change everything, the MCUs, just everything would be high. So it makes more sense to focus on.
There is a reason why it hasn't been done for 70 years.
Well, yes, except I think the funny thing is the reason why it hasn't been done for 70 years is because the car manufacturers, in what they thought was a clever move, which was to outsource virtually everything. So except for Tesla, all other car makers aren't car makers, they are component assemblers and sub-assembly assemblers. They really just cobble together the components that they've outsourced to suppliers,
and but they outsource the software development and the software as well as a lot of the hardware, and that's just crazy.
That's right. Well, it is in hindsight now, because Tesla's shown the world that the only way to get something as complex as a modern car, working easily together is you've got to do it from one team. From you've got to do it as a vertically integrated company. But so the other car manufacturers, they haven't touched 48 volts because none of their tier one suppliers have bothered to deal with it, because there's no key performance indicator that improves their business case in making these subsystems. There's no reason why they would spend the money, because they'd have to all agree that 48 volts is a new standard and there's benefits and whatever. And, Tesla's seen it. It's obvious. It's been around for a long time. Ethernet's been around for decades, and, yet the Cybertruck is the very first vehicle to fully implement it.
So working in comms, 48 volt makes me happy. It's the native, voltage for so much of the equipment I work with. So to me, it makes sense.
It's been deemed as the highest voltage that's safe for humans. Basically, that's why it is 48 volts. That's why it's that limit. It's deemed as it's not high voltage for safety purposes. But I
thought rules that like the what is it, the ultra low low voltage went up to 60 volt.
Yeah, that's DC. So don't forget, 48 is 48 class. It won't be 48 volts. It'll be
somewhere between that and
55, 50, 52. It's the, like for example, in our so-called 12 volt Model Ys, the voltage isn't 12 volts. It's actually 15 and a half. So
I've got 48 volt equipment running at 55, 56. So
exactly that. Yes, and that's because you can basically say that's like the float. That's the float voltage for battery backing up a 48 volt system. Just like a 12 volt battery, lead acid battery, its nominal voltage is 12 volts, but you trickle charge it at 13.8 and you fully charge it at 14.2 or 14.4. So there's always that creep, but it's classed as 48 volt class. So yeah, you're right, Richard. It's the absolute, probably maximum voltage standard would be probably 60 volts absolute max, but it's 48 volt class. And it's something that in 10 years time all cars will do it, but at the moment it's just a Cybertruck.
BMW talked about that for 5 to 10 years. Wanted to make them, but never did. They were.
I think I've actually got it's an electronics magazine. I don't know if it was Electronics Australia or Silicon Chip, something like that. And there was an article at the turn of the century saying that 48 volts was the new thing. And it would do things like you could have electric water pumps and quite a few other things. And electric power assist would be a lot easier with 48 volts. And that was, 20 years ago. And that was spoken about as that's the next thing. But here we are in 2023, and there's only one company on Earth, or one model on Earth, that's got it throughout the whole vehicle. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to worry about your accessories. You can still get 12 volts out of the power outlet of the car. And you've also got 65 watts of USB-C. And you've got, in America, they got 110 volt, maybe 240 as well, in the front and the rear of your car as well.
Yeah, they said there was 2 outlets inside the car and 3 in the tray.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm trying to find if I can get the image of that. But yeah, so it's awesome. So you're going to be able to do lots and lots of stuff. I mean, tradies, again, we always knew tradies were going to just lose their minds over the Cybertruck, but there won't be a piece of electrical equipment that you won't be able to power on site from your Cybertruck all day.
Yeah.
And you won't, and you know,
but the big thing for tradies is that tonneau cover, because you've got, you know, you've got true security with the press of a button. You know, it's you know, like, you know, they had Marcus, sorry, what's his name?
MKBHD or whatever. Marcus Brownlee, anyway.
Marcus Brownlee, yeah. And he was standing on it. I mean, Elon was standing on it on Jay Leno's show. So he can support about 130 kilo. So yeah, you probably wouldn't jump on it, even though I think one of the Haggerty, one of the
Carwell, I think it was him.
Yeah, the Carwell guy jumped on it.
he kicked the car. That was brilliant.
Yeah, I'm just. Oh, here we go.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just going to. Oh, this is one of the.
Instead of a basket.
Here we go. Sorry. Now let me just rewind this.
It's every car owner's worst nightmare. Get to the supermarket and some idiot isn't paying attention, and they like, oh, whoops. Doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. Look, whoop. Oh dear, doesn't matter. Although you might say, well, what happens if you've got like a basket full of shopping? Well, instead of a basket full of shopping, I'm going to get a basket case. Sam, come here. Right. So, Sam is not only a racing driver, he's also a stuntman. So, Sam, can you get in the trolley? You might want to put your helmet on as well. Get yourself nice and comfy. Put that on your head. Are you ready, Sam?
No.
Good. Let's see what this does. This is considerably heavier. Here we go. Ready? Again? One last time for good measure. Sorry, Tesla. All right, Ed. Come on, let's get out of here. I'm going to run off.
Dearie me. And I'm also trying to find where he has the. I think it might be. Oh yes, it's this. It's this.
Over that's strong. It is the new.
Possibly. Here we go. Oh, come on, internet. I'll just try that again.
It's okay.
Wish I had gigabit Ethernet in this.
Like we do. Woohoo!
Actually, I do, and but it's not working that well. So anyway,
yeah, Starlink's just been retired.
Yes, exactly.
While you do that, Harold, a bit of SpaceX news is they've got a page on their website called Direct to Cell, and sounds like Optus will be the first Australian carrier to support it, starting with text messages. So just with an ordinary iPhone or Android smartphone, you'll be able to get text messages anywhere in Australia through Starlink. And then by 2025, voice and data as well.
That's huge.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find that actual. Oh, there we go. Satellite. No. Yeah, it's on their website, and Telstra hasn't negotiated yet. But let's hope that they also jump on board.
Have to.
Well, hopefully, I hope there's not some weirdness of they only Starlink will only negotiate with one telco per country. Okay, so this is the video. Hopefully, just going to.
This is the new Tesla Cybertruck. Have a look at this. We have a power-operated front boot. Lovely. Just shut that down. Moving down the sides. Got these stainless steel body panels, which are so strong you can kick them and they do not break. Moving down the back, another thing that's strong about it is the tonneau cover. You won't be able to break into this because look at that, it's tough as you like. It's got quite a big low bed. Look, if I open this up, you will see plenty of space. Over 2,500 litres of space. Look at that. Yeah, he likes it, he loves it, that guy does. Now to get in, you press these buttons here like that, and I'll show you just what it's like on the inside. There, have a look on the inside. Got someone's very colourful bag down there. And one last thing I want to show you is this. If I pull this little cord here, I can put the seats up there like that. Very clever, very practical, and as you can see, very cool. This is the new Tesla Cybertruck.
He forgot to mention that the rear doors, not sure about the front ones, but I'm pretty sure the front ones will do the same, can open to 90 degrees.
No,
So
the front ones don't do as much.
What's that?
The front ones don't open quite as wide as the back ones.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, thanks, Peter. But yeah, back ones.
Yeah, wasn't it?
So what? Who said that? Sorry,
Richard.
That was the Top Gear video, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so.
Top Gear video
I've
showed how it opens to 90 degrees, and yeah, when you pull those seats up, because if the doors didn't open to 20 degrees, you have very limited access to that floor space. But if you open both doors to 90 degrees, you can basically look right through the truck. So easy to load and unload. And they said, oh yeah, that's the one. Play that.
That's Top Gear.
Play that, Harold. Yep.
Make it configurable so you can use it. Yeah. Like the seats look incredibly angular, yet really comfortable, conform to your body. So.
Yeah, cool. Let's look in the back, because I think the rear seats do something cool as well. Oh, they're halfway out.
Oh, I'll get it.
All the way up. There we go. So you can chuck a load more stuff.
Yeah, like a truck is all about, it's like a Swiss Army knife. It's all about, you know, how are you going to use it for what you need? And so it's our job to just make as much space as possible and make it configurable so you can use it. There's pockets, seats flip up. You can put, you know, dog crates or.
And we really worked hard to make the door
TVs.
open 92. Because you can have this big space, but if the door only opens to here, you can't use it.
Yeah, you can't put your thing in.
And then, you know, it's not quite 6 feet, but it is also pretty decent for sleeping.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, I've been out on a few test trips where, you know, you'll find an engineer or two in the back of a truck just laying down.
The Tesla Cybertruck camper van. Well, you did actually have a kind of roof tent on those
We do
initial.
have a roof tent.
Is that going to be an accessory?
Yes. Yes.
I can't wait to see the accessories catalogue on this.
It's pretty good.
It's going to be pretty good. Let's come around the back. Oh, charging ports here.
Yeah.
Oh. Cleverly integrated there. There it goes.
So this is another round thing, but this is our North
ICE pickup truck.
Yeah.
It's wider than
all our smuggler's bay. It's under bed storage.
Oh, there we go. That's where you put the contraband.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's right.
Yeah. But extra space that we had.
Yeah.
So we give it back. It's a 6 foot bed, so it's slightly longer than your 5.5 foot bed that you find on a traditional ICE pickup truck.
Yeah.
It's wider than 4 feet across. You'll notice there's no like big blisters or humps for the wheel arches, so it's super.
So you're basically carrying a 6x4 trailer with you the whole time.
So cool.
And it's lockable. Oh, and I had images. One of these photos actually shows. Oops, sorry. So that's just the store. You can actually. This is an optional extra. These are storage buckets that you can actually buy on the online shop. But these two things here. This is the back. These are the vents. So there's actually a tent mode. So that, they call it something else. I think it was tent mode. So it probably puts the aircon on fresh air, and it blows cool air through these vents into the bed, into the back. So then if you have a tent, I don't think you can sleep in the Cybertruck in the tray with the vault closed. I don't know if it'd allow that, but maybe
Pete will give it a go there.
Pete will give it a go. But I mean, like they said, if the internal width of the Cybertruck is just under 6 foot, where you can just lay in that section under the seats and just put a memory foam mattress or something like that, air mattress, and lay crossways.
In that video, they said an engineer or two. Now, I reckon he might be stretching that a little bit. So one person, yes, I can't see two people in there.
Two very familiar engineers.
What's Yeah, I don't think they were vertically stacked, Pete.
No,
Unless
too familiar
unless they
engineers.
unless they were one was laying under the seat. I don't know if there's enough. You can't really see if there's enough. Yeah. So, whoops. We just go back a little bit. You might be able to just squeeze in here, and then have someone on the seat. So you might be able to lay under here if you're tired enough.
So why wouldn't you just lay on the seats in the first place?
Because you need you want two people, two engineers. So one's on the floor, one's on the seats.
Yeah, if there's one of you, yeah.
Yeah. So
So basically, it's like a bunk bed setup in the rear seat.
And the thing is, it's probably more comfortable on the floor because the floor was flat.
All the way up. There we go. So you can chuck a load more stuff.
Yeah. It's completely flat. It is utterly flat. So that would be pretty comfortable. And I guess you could even have, if you put these back seats flat as well, you could have 3 people. So you could have drivers, passengers, and on the floor. And then, a number of them in the boot. I mean, in the tray. So there you go.
There's a YouTube video. How many people can you sleep in a Cybertruck?
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, I think apologies to the person that had their hand up. I think that might have.
I think that was Andrew, but I think he's.
I think it was Andrew, but he's gone again. Okay, well, if he comes back, we'll catch him the third time. Third time will be the charm. Alrighty. Well, any other questions or comments?
You got a hand up there.
Oh, David. Yes, go.
Yeah, hi. Dave and Susie both have a controller because we both drive the Tesla at different times. When Susie uses the controller and we go to climate because the weather's getting warmer, she presses vent and the windows drop down by 1 inch.
Yep.
But when I press vent, I can feel my little machine going, but nothing happens to the windows. Now, do I just need to upgrade my something must run that hand controller, I guess, in my phone.
So you mean, so you're doing it from your phone, from the app on your phone, and you got the one car. You only got the one car, haven't you, David? So you're sharing the car between 2 different apps. That's strange because is there a setting on the profile to disable cracking your window? Anyone? Is that something that you've got to enable in the car to allow you to do that via the app?
I don't think so, no.
I went through the whole menu and I couldn't see anything that sort of related to that. No.
Yeah,
you got window. You got window lock. You got window lock.
No, that would be for the back. That's for kids at the back.
Yeah.
Stop them from.
I'll type in window and see what the search buttons are.
But okay, does my phone keep updating the app for Tesla, or do I have to ask it to update the app?
You've probably got an iPhone, David, and if you do, the frustrating thing is, at least in my experience, it doesn't update automatically. The quickest way to do an update for an iPhone is you just go to the App Store, just hit the search button and just start typing Tesla, search for it. Even though you've already got the app installed, it will often show update instead of open. Yep. So if it says open, it means you've got the latest version. But if it says update, then just hit update and get it to update. For some weird reason, I've not managed to get my iPhone to automatically update the Tesla app. I always have to do it manually whenever I hear that there might be an update.
Harold, same for Samsung. You have to go to the App Store to do an update for that. Yeah, David, I did have an issue with mine venting not working a couple of weeks ago. But I think I just got in and started the aircon, opened the doors, and it reverted back to normal. So I'm not sure that actually helps your situation.
In fact, it's funny that we just mentioned updating, because look at that. Mine's actually got an update. I didn't even know until I looked at it just then.
Okay.
So that's just how frustrating these phones
That
are.
was,
I'm checking.
yeah, that was today, yeah, because I had a look this morning and updated mine. And like you, I have the same problem.
Very
I'll
frustrating.
tell you next
Is
week
what it
to be up that work to make the.
Okay. Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
and I believe there are some changes coming. Do you remember what they were, Pete? There are a few good things coming around the corner.
In the app or just the car itself?
Oh no, sorry, that's right. There's a possibility that for Christmas, one of the presents we're going to get from Tesla is a version of 60-degree cameras. That was something that I did see.
That'd be good.
And look, even if it's imperfect, it's something that we've been waiting for a very long time. Especially when you're doing frontal parking maneuvers where you just don't see any of the visibility of the front of your car.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's going to be key.
I'd love to see charging on sunshine.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll happen.
Yeah, I
For
think
Christmas.
that would need a gateway at the least, because you need a meter for your house, a net meter, so the car knows what's going on. So you'll either need
For those that have a Powerwall and a gateway and a Tesla, I would love to see charging on sunshine.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Which be cool.
Alrighty.
I know that we're getting a update about traffic cameras and stuff as well. That's coming. I saw that somewhere as well. So that will be cool for the people that don't use autopilot. I mean, I use it all the time, so I'm good.
Yes, not that we're endorsing people that might speed, but let's call it safety camera features.
Yes. Exactly.
Which, yes. Yeah, and that'd be cool for those that need that sort of stuff. It beats the hell out of trying to get Waze on your phone, and yeah. And look, hopefully, Tesla has announced that they're formally opening their API to commercial entities. The next step will be if they actually introduce apps onto the media control unit, the touchscreens, because you can imagine a plethora of apps are going to be very useful in Teslas. Not to mention,
they should just call it the TAP Store, like short for Tesla App Store, the TAP Store.
Very good. There's quite a few things like ChargeFox would be useful if you saw other charging things if you could see that on your screen, or if they could integrate some of that stuff, if they could inhale PlugShare and have that displayed as an option, as a layer on your navigation screen.
It'd be good if they had X or Twitter only for the reason for you to have access to Grok when it becomes available in Australia.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a grumpy guy that was using ChargeFox, and he put this up. Please stop your app from blocking out your charger map while displaying a current charging session. It deeply impinges on road trip planning. Please don't reply by saying it's difficult. It's just not. Please just fix this. Because there's a certain guy who was on the way to Overlander who was actually really concerned that the Overlander pin might not be active, and therefore he might not be able to charge on his ridiculous day trip to Overlander. And ChargeFox's app just has this, and this thing scrolls charging, and you cannot get out of it, which is really, really frustrating.
The only way to do that is to actually have a second physical phone. It's ridiculous.
Someone actually replied to that thread and actually said that's exactly what they do. They have two separate accounts, I think him and his partner, and they will resort to using the other phone and the other account to see the live status of the rest of the ChargeFox network. And to be perfectly frank, it's just not good enough. They claim that it's difficult to write apps like that. You look at your Tesla app, you can look at your charging session at any time and you can flick onto anything else at the same time. It's not hard. Just fix it. But at least if Tesla could have some sort of map integration with live status on the navigation bar, that would be good too. And obviously speaking of Overlander, yeah, that, you know, if people think that you shouldn't have an EV because, you know, it's great around town, but you can't really do road trips because it's just a bit inconvenient. Last Friday, that was a 1,408 kilometre day trip to Overlander Roadhouse. So yes, you can drive an EV in the bush. Alrighty. Oh, we got hands up. Oh, Des. Yes, we'll go to you and then straight to David.
I don't have a problem with my app updating. I've got background app refresh, but I don't think that's the reason for it. But have a look at that. But mine seems to update automatically. I've got an iPhone, so
yeah, right.
Weird.
That is.
I don't think mine's.
It's strange because mine, like I said, I just had, you know, like I just showed. It's really frustrating. I just don't know. And even though you do set, there is a setting to say automatic updates. It just doesn't do it anymore. I just don't know why. But
yeah, that's what I was looking for, the automatic updates. I thought it was in the Tesla, but no, it isn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to David and then Pete.
Today, for the first time, I drove the car with the new update, software update, and flicked the handle down once to get the blue lines on the screen, and it then gave me automatic speed control too. But when I flick it up, I then lose both the speed control and the blue lines. Is there any way you can have speed control without the blue lines, which we had before?
Yes, so and I found this on my car when I did a software update. It automatically enabled single tap for autopilot, which is really interesting because I thought you had to invoke that through the menu. So you go to the little car symbol and then you go into the autopilot submenu. What I did very quickly is revert back to the old system, which was a single tap for cruise control and a double tap for autopilot. The reason being, on the single tap system, you only get autopilot. And then if you, for example, on a single tap, and then if you move your steering wheel with about 2 kilos of force to disengage autopilot, in the old system, it would maintain cruise control. If you do a single tap for autopilot, you lose cruise control once you disengage autopilot. And I just find that, to be frank, I find that silly. It's, you know, there are many times where you may not want autopilot, but you definitely do want cruise control, traffic aware cruise control. So yeah, David, just go into your menu and just change that setting back to a double tap.
There is a hack. I was just thinking, Harold, just thinking out loud here, but there could be a hack. So what you do is you double tap to turn on autopilot, and then you would just turn the steering wheel to disable auto steer, because when you do that without touching the brake, you still have cruise control. But
not on a single tap, Pete. Not when it's on single tap.
Oh, so on single tap, if you just move the steering wheel, well, that's everything goes.
If you have single tap, if you have the new single tap system, a single tap will only engage autopilot. So which means if you're in an area where the road isn't well marked enough for autopilot, but it is marked enough, or it is appropriate for cruise control, you will not get anything until it is happy to engage autopilot. But you then, when you do the technique, which we all know, which is if you move the steering wheel, oversteer it a little bit, it'll disengage autopilot, but it won't revert, it won't maintain cruise control. It kills everything.
Yeah, right.
And as far as I'm concerned, if that's the way they want to keep this single tap system, well, you'd be mad to use it. Just put up with 2 taps, and that way you know you've always got cruise control whenever you want it.
Also,
Great.
another
Okay.
thing that's awkward with that then is with towing, because towing you can't have auto steer,
Good point.
which
Yep.
means that you
Yes.
can't have a single tap to bring on tack, can you?
Yes, that's correct. So I just don't know why they did. I just don't understand why someone thought that this was a new feature or a benefit. I just see everywhere I look, it's just downside as far as I'm concerned.
So you said that you reverted back. So what did you do? Is there a way to?
There's a menu item. There's a new menu item that says single tap or double tap for autopilot.
Gotcha.
So if you go back to, let's call it the old-fashioned double tap, then on a single tap you get TAC, traffic aware cruise control, and on a double tap you get autopilot. And if you're in autopilot and you turn the steering wheel or overturn it a little bit to disengage autopilot, you still maintain cruise control.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, the 2 points I wanted to make was going back to the Cybertruck is it's got a higher torsional rigidity than a McLaren P1, which is just insane. So yeah, that's quite amazing. And the other innovation, which I thought was quite clever, is the hubcaps. They're now in, or the aero covers, if you like, they're in two parts because the actual cover is made out of rubber. So you can't get rim rash anymore. And the reason why made out of rubber is because the wall of the tyres is quite big. They're 18-inch wheels with 35-inch tyres on them. So yeah, quite big tyres on a small wheel. So if you're going off-roading and what have you, and there's quite a lot of flex in the tyre, the hubcap will.
All right, so the Tesla.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to find the hub.
Teeing up Marcus.
Yeah. Just and actually, the reason why it's rubber is that they got a rubber overmolding was, and Franz actually explained that they wanted to get rid of the circularity of the wheels.
Yes.
And they did that with the actual with the hubcap with the caps. I'm just trying to find where did he? Oh, I did it early on. And they found that when it was plastic and it was interfacing with the sidewalls, it would just pop off. Here we go. That's it there. And I'm just trying to find, I think it actually takes it off. Yeah, so it's actually very clever. There's actually a double system. So actually, we'll just play this.
Outside rubber, it's actually a two-piece. And it'll get you a couple % more range on the truck. But if you don't like the look of it, or if you're off-roading, pop that off. And that's how the truck's stock wheel will look. A lot of grease and metal in there. But this is a two-part thing, like I said. So if I can rip this off, these are the two pieces. And the reason it's two parts is because they actually wanted these to line up with the little rectangles on the tire. So maybe you want to take the aero caps off to air down the tires and go off-roading and you want maximum brake cooling, whatever you're doing. But if you want to put these back on, you sort of line all this up. And then you take the plastic bit now you're back.
And yeah, so they made this bit out of rubber or soft plastic or whatever, so that that sidewall wouldn't pop the covers off when it flexed.
That must be raised out.
Which
that
is
must
pretty
be
cool.
raised out a little bit, so the stem of your air isn't impacted or something.
It's totally.
Because I think it's
probably totally hidden. You can't see
Yeah,
the
that's what I was-
bottom, so I can't
that's what I
see a
was-
valve at all. So you've got to actually take that cover off to
Yeah.
pump your tires up.
Yeah,
Probably.
Right.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, actually, all but certainly, because when he actually took it off, there's there's, I think that's your stem there. I
Yeah.
think. And the thing is, that stem will be, sorry, this tyre will be at any random location along the rim because you don't line the tyre up to a particular part of the rim, which is why they've had to decouple this.
Whatever you're doing. But if you want to put these back on, you sort of line all of this
Because obviously that interfaces with the spokes.
up. And then you take the plastic bit.
And because that's always at a different position, that's why they've had to separate them. With the valve stem, you can't have a hole in here because it would have to be like a slot so that the stem could be coming out at any sort of angle sort of thing. So, yeah.
Cool.
And that was basically Franz in the Top Gear interview or story. He basically explained they wanted to get rid of the circularity of the wheels and have these octagons or whatever it is, facets, which made it look more angular.
One thing that I was a little bit disappointed is there is no integrated in the tailgate integrated ramps into the tray like they had in the prototype.
They're too heavy. They can't support the weights. So you need a massive lift to lift the tailgate. So that's the reason.
Yeah, I mean, they were strong enough for the Cyberquad when they did the reveal. But yeah, so that's a bit of a shame. That was a pretty cool feature.
Yeah.
There are accessories. There is in the Cybertruck shop. The ramp. Sorry, there'll be an exterior.
You went past it. It's a little bit higher.
I went past it, didn't I?
Yeah. There it is.
There it is.
There it is. Sorry. Yeah. But it's just a fold up. It's like a ladder. That's a pretty expensive ramp. Just quietly.
And you'll need two of them. So.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll take up a bit of room.
Something that is pretty cool is the Cybertruck OMFG decal. $55.
Cool.
And look, I dare say that'd probably fit on our cars too, but it's only in the American shop, unfortunately. And I think they also have. Do they have the extender pack?
I think that's a.
I think that's a service installable.
Yeah, installable. Yeah.
And the thing is, that's going to weigh about
300 kilo.
Yeah, at least 300 kilos. I think they're talking about 650 pounds for a 50 kilowatt hour extension battery, basically. So if you get that for your Cyber Beast, it's probably going to reduce its 0 to 100 time to a little bit longer than 2.7 seconds. But hey, it's lots of range.
That 2.6 seconds from 0 to 60 miles per hour. They did that on the track with all-terrain tyres, which is quite incredible. And then they said, people were saying, well, that's on a track where you've got, sticky bitumen and all the rest of it. So they did it on a normal public road, and the time was unchanged. They still got 2.6 seconds with all-terrain tyres on a regular road. So I dare say Tesla are sandbagging the 2.6 seconds a little bit.
Well, one thing they did and they've implemented is to get the lightning speed and reaction of the traction control system, they've actually implementing that in the drive unit. So the control for traction control is in the drive unit, not on a separate computer on a CAN bus or even on the Ethernet bus. So that's something that Tesla's also done and I think they're doing that for the Model Y as well. I think that's been a software update for most of the models is traction control and stability control is done in the drive unit, which is again another thing that Tesla can do that no one else can. So, and that probably explains some of the lightning speeds that elapsed times that the Tesla can get, Pete, because they're doing it as efficiently and as quickly as they possibly can. You know, almost superhuman.
You compare it to the Hummer that's got like a 200 kilowatt hour battery, and it just wallops the Hummer and does it with a 123 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, 123 kilowatt hours and to get 500 kilometers of official range is really impressive. It really is.
Truck.
Sorry?
For a 3-ton truck.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Alrighty. Have we got any other questions or comments?
Do you reckon they're goosing the range of the Cybertruck?
But it hasn't been, it's not official EPA range just yet because it hasn't been certified. So that's why they're saying, you know, like 340 miles plus. So they're saying, yeah, at least 340 miles, but yeah, depends what the test certifications come in at.
Different topic. Well, actually, still Cybertruck. I read that the brake control is standard as part of in the towing arrangement. You don't have to do it as an aftermarket accessory.
Oh.
Yes, and I've got a photo.
Oh. Good pick
up. You've got a integrated tow hitch, so you don't have to put a tow bar.
Tow hitch and controller.
Yeah, right.
So good. This is the wiring plug, and it's got two parts. So I presume one is just standard trailer lights, and the other one would be for electric brakes.
Yeah, right. That's cool.
Oh. So I've not seen that one. That's a split. It's a split arrangement, which is interesting.
Oh. And a lot easier than the Model Y. You've got to climb under and stuff.
Well, I can see the access to the securing lugs, the securing points are much easier than on the on the Y. That's appalling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Aren't they terrible on the Y? They're just out of control.
Well,
what I did
extra ones and like a clip, so I can clip into them like a 12 mil clip sort of stuff. Yeah, carabiners. Yeah, I've done 12 mil carabiners with my little 6x4, and I'm on the ground up like this and that stuff, and still cursing, and I'm going. And Tesla's really good at engineering, but the trailer plug section is shit. It's too small. Like I don't. Oh, my hands aren't that small, but I'd need even smaller hands to get in there. It's a pain.
What I had to do is I had to hang a D-shackle off it just to be able.
That's what I. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, the problem is that because the car's so quiet, if I go over a hump or an uneven road, I can hear the D-shackle. Up and down. So
put some felt on the actual shaft bit between that and that, and then it doesn't make sense.
Pete, I heard that you're not supposed to secure the shackle to a shackle to the frame. You've got too many shackles in sequence there. It might be something you want to look into.
Even if they're rated?
When I was trying to resolve this, I haven't resolved it yet, apart from, as Paul said, getting your hand as small and getting right angled and trying to get underneath and feel what's actually happening. You can't see.
Yeah.
I was at a Parkside Towing, and they were saying, you shouldn't put a shackle to the chassis. And
one solution that might solve both issues is to actually have the shackle on there, the D-shackle, and onto a chain as well, and then just put some microfiber cloth or something and just have the chain sitting in that compartment, and that way you can just pull out the chain with the D-shackle on the other end of it and just connect that to the trailer or whatever you're towing. So keep the chain on the truck or on the Model Y rather than on the trailer.
Yeah, I was also looking at one of those, apparently those hammerlock ones, those yellow ones that you see, which are permanently mounted, they don't count as a shackle. They're okay.
Right.
But you've still got to get that fitted. Yeah. So
I've got lock ones to the car. So it's like you actually lock it there. That's even thicker. than the 12 mil. They might be 16 or something. Don't know, but they're rated quite high, more than what normally than what I tow. And I filled the trailer with construction waste, so it was totally fine. It's quite hilarious actually. You put your foot down, and it was like allegedly, it didn't feel like it had anything on the back. So it was fun. Yeah, have fun with the cars.
Yeah, when I'm pulling the camper trailer, which is what 1.4 tons, you can feel that it's there, but on tack, no matter what the hill, it just says whatever. I'm just driving.
Absolutely. Something I should have mentioned while Chuck was still with us, because it's obviously it's very late for him. It's past his bedtime. Was that the Port Augusta 150? Sorry, I think it's 200 kilowatt Chempower units are up and running. So this is an old photo. There was a construction fences up, but they've now been taken down, and that's just another one that's been done in Port Augusta. So that's another bit of news as well, which is pretty welcome.
What's that one, Harold? Is that the RAC one or
RAA? So that's the RAA. Yep. So I think the RAA even actually put a message and basically said that it's all getting removed. It's all ready. So
that's awesome.
And a Model 3 got 111 kilowatts at it. So that's if we just change the plugs and go to just fast, then yeah, there's Port Augusta. So you can basically drive from Camberwell, which is in far west Queensland. You can charge at Mount Isa. You can keep going all the way along the eastern seaboard and basically the interior of New South Wales and Victoria. Go all the way past Adelaide. You can now, rather than having to charge a fair bit at Clare at the supercharger, you almost don't have to charge there. Charge at Port Augusta, Kimber, Woodner, Streaky Bay, and then you can actually get to Nullarbor Roadhouse over here using nothing but fast DC chargers.
Should we mention the crowdfund for the
So Tokwa, Eva, and Toka have put in money to fund two 20-ish kilowatt DC chargers. One is going to Nullarbor Roadhouse. That'll be doing that on about the 19th of December. And another one is going to Mundrabilla Roadhouse. So the purpose of the Nullarbor one is because the RAA has basically said that we are not interested in putting a DC charger of any kind at Nullarbor Roadhouse. In fact, they are only interested in putting a 7.6 kilowatt single phase 32 amp type 2 outlet,
which would effectively be a downgrade, which would effectively charging speed downgrade.
That's right. And the purpose of the Mundrabilla installation is just as a stopgap over the Christmas holidays and possibly for the Easter holidays until Horizon Power fit a 50 kilowatt off-grid tritium charger to Mundrabilla as part of the WAEV network. So that's for Mundrabilla, it's a stopgap. For Nullarbor, it's basically you can't be bothered to build it, so we're just going to have to fund it, sadly. There is something else too. The NRMA are going to put a charger eventually, and basically what I suggested they do is, because they did say that they're onto it, because I think it was Richard Laxton he'd said that this is the map where he had travelled when he went around Australia to go to the EVA National EV Expo in Perth, but the red areas are where there is no
DC.
no fast DC charging. And in reply to that, the NRMA said, it's something we're definitely working on. And they said, initially, quite cheekily, they showed the map. Here we go, and go on it with a cowboy hat. And I thought I'm sure they were very proud of that. But someone else replied, and I'll just go back. Now, this map here, the red spots, which I added in, by the way, GAN is actually done. That's an off-grid dual 75 kilowatt tritium site. That's running now. The red dots are where the NRMA needs to resist the urge to pick the low-hanging fruit, and they need to install fast DC chargers in these locations. So we've got Nullarbor, Yalalta, Willair, interestingly enough, because that way it avoids the 80k dogleg to Derby. Timber Creek, Adelaide River, Catherine, Burdham, Elliot, Three Ways, Davenport, Tie Tree, and a few others, and Camberwell, and Barclay Homestead. Pete and I went past Barclay Homestead. Well, we actually met up on our little jaunt, and we had to overnight with 15 amps caravan main sockets. Or a few weeks ago, I had to drive non-stop for 450 kilometres in a headwind, because Barclay's got nothing. So the NRMA needs to understand that it's pointless following the path of the WAEV network and even the RAA, because this will be Sejuna, and I think that's Kimber, and that's Woodner and Port Augusta. We just don't need it, and you don't need to put another charger at Mount Isa.
I wouldn't say it's pointless. It's good to have redundancy, but you wouldn't be doing that until the very end. You'd definitely prioritise the places where there are no charges at all.
Well, precisely. So there is nothing at Camberwell. The only place an EV can charge at more than 3 kilowatts is at the RACQ depot that's run by a lovely gentleman by the name of David, who out of the kindness of his heart has had a three-phase socket, and it's the only three-phase socket in Camberwell. And this is a place that's got 3 power generators. It's got 2 500 kilowatts generators and a 300 kilowatt generator at the powerhouse. And that place has got no EV charging, not even Type 2. And that's something that the NRMA needs to do. This is only 16 locations, which if it did in the next 6 months, because bearing in mind, the WAV network is going to be complete by the end of this financial year. Oh, except for the Great Northern Highway. But everything else, all of this route is going to be complete. Forget Border Village. It's going to be complete by the end of this financial year. So, and also the RAA will have their section in South Australia complete as well. The only thing they need to do is Sejuna. But we need Nullarbor and Yalalta. And really, Three Ways, Barclay, Camberwell, and up and down the I forget what that's called now. I think it's the Air Highway or the
Stewart
whichever
Highway.
way it is.
Stewart Highway.
But we don't need one at Mount Isa, Cloncurry, Richmond, Hewenden, Charters Towers, Townsville. You're right, Pete. It's great to have redundancy or extra capacity, but it's a bit like saying there's no point putting more lanes on the Kwinana Freeway and more lanes on the Mitchell Freeway when all you've got across the Narrows is a rope bridge or a barge.
Absolutely.
You need to fill in the black spots. And at the moment, all these red locations are black spots.
Yeah,
and that
so
needs to be done.
A good metaphor is that there's no point putting in a second lane to a road until you actually made that road continuous.
Well, exactly. So that's the whole point. And I know the NRMA, unfortunately, they're a corporate organisation that have stakeholders I don't know if it's shareholders, but they certainly have stakeholders. But they're dealing with dozens of millions of dollars of federal government funding. And, you know, if I was the climate change minister, Chris Bowen, I would direct the NRMA to pick the high-hanging fruit first. Pick the stuff that's hard to do and the stuff that's needed.
Well,
That's what we need.
That's what you have taxpayer money for. That's when you bring in the government where there's market failure, where the market doesn't operate. That's where it needs to go. It just makes zero sense to be, like you said, picking the low-hanging fruit, because that's for private enterprise.
He's too busy putting big fans in the ocean. I think he's lost the plot, and transmission lines that are upsetting everyone. He just doesn't understand what's required.
Well, I just wish he'd look on X or ask the EV community.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because we'll tell him for free. You know,
and while we're on the subject, to in 2023 still be installing CHAdeMO, and in some places,
ridiculous.
50% CHAdeMO and 50% CCS2, when out of the 44 EV models sold in Australia in the first half of 2023, only 2 supported this obsolete standard, and they accounted for less than 0.65% of all EVs sold in Australia. So we should be installing chargers for the present and the future, not the past. And that 0.65% is going to go down to 0.1% and then 0.001%.
I just don't understand why they wouldn't ask groups like us. Like it's just insane. It's like there's free advice there that knows.
And would you believe the NRMA, as great as this system is, although personally I think it's a bit expensive having solar panels mounted like this, but be that as it may, these two, I think they're 75 kilowatt RTMs, each have a CHAdeMO on each nozzle, on each box. Which means,
how many 2-3-year-old Nissan Leafs with a range of kilometers are going to actually have the range to actually get to that charger?
Precisely zero. So
exactly.
So what this means is that they've got 2 boxes with 1 nozzle each. Yeah. So if there are 2 Teslas turn up, that's it. That station is at full capacity.
It's like, once again, the federal government money is being used. There's finally a charger going into Joondalup. It's only taken, we've been a 2 EV family for 7 years, so it's only taken 7.5 years for us to have a DC charger anywhere within 20 kilometres of us. It's only
Joondalup's such a big population. Like, that's insane.
It's the second most important
satellite
area outside the CBD, and and you can, it's all wrapped up. But I did a quick video on this, put it up on X, but you can already tell that it's going to have a CHAdeMO, and just like the one in Butler. So there've been 0 DC charges north of Gwelup or Karrinyup. So the whole of the northern suburbs of Perth have been completely underserved for 7 years with any fast DC chargers. So that's the Butler one. And both of them have gone in with CHAdeMO chargers, the CHAdeMO plugs.
Can I just say I've just driven to North Perth to help my daughter charge. North Perth Ampol's out of power, so I got to Belmont Ampol, and there was 5 EVs waiting there, all of them waiting for the CCS2. Luckily, I turned up with a Leaf. I could use the other one. Other 4 people were still waiting.
This is exactly what I said in the video. If we're lucky for this to be commissioned by Christmas, then there'll be people lining up to use the CCS2 while they're all looking at the CHAdeMO collecting dust.
3 Teslas and 1 Kia. I had to ask one of the Teslas to move so I could put the Leaf in.
that would have, you would have been really popular, James.
I turned up in my Tesla, so it wasn't so bad. But yeah.
So you did that under the cover of darkness.
Yes.
Isn't there a adapter from CCS to CHAdeMO? I mean,
no,
it's different
Not
standard.
yet. Not yet.
There is an adapter for some of the older S and X models.
Of course.
So that's about it. But it's huge. It's expensive. It's clunky. It's slow. But yeah, those are really the only two cars that can use an adapter. So.
Yeah, and it's just
sorry,
not.
What? Sorry, what am I talking about? Yeah, bring on CHAdeMO. I can use it.
Oh,
Richard. Excellent. Great use of money.
And you know what's really telling is when people like yourself, Richard, and people, like James, who own a Leaf and who own cars that can actually charge on CHAdeMO, when they're saying this is ridiculous, we should have 2 times CCS.
I didn't even think about it. Like, it is clearly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, the Leafs and these legacy cars are great cars in the EV cycle, but they're local cars, charge at home, go to work. They're not long distance country driving cars.
Exactly.
That's dead right. So in Erdunda, or also known as GAN, you don't need to have CHAdeMO, and it's a waste of resource. And at the very least, they've got 2 boxes. They could have had, if they insist on the stupidity of putting CHAdeMO in the middle of nowhere, put it on one of the boxes and not the other. Have 2 CCSs on one and a CHAdeMO and a CCS on the other, if you insist on that stupidity. But like I've said many times, the initial version of high definition TV in Australia was using MPEG-4 or whatever it was, and then it went to H.263 or whatever, 264, 265. So all those people that invested many, many, many thousands of dollars on the original high definition plasma TVs, they, as we speak today, none of those are capable of accepting the modern version of high definition. And yes, people did their dough, but that's just what happens when you're in a world of change. And the only reason why CHAdeMO's proliferated to the rest of the world is because TETCO, I think it's Japan's state power transmission utility, has effectively insisted that anything coming out of Japan, electric vehicle wise, must have CHAdeMO, and that's why they've done it. And for Lexus to bring out the UX300 with CHAdeMO only is a travesty. It's just, and good on Toyota. I hope I don't wish for any company to fail, but if they're going to, I think I get a lot of satisfaction with seeing Toyota vastly diminished as a car maker.
Japanese car makers are just going out their minds.
Yeah.
And German, well, to a lesser extent, but
yeah,
Harold,
absolutely.
you know how you said earlier that the best way for a Porsche 911, a 2023 Porsche 911, is to beat another Porsche 911, and that's to be towed by a Cybertruck. Well, the only chance that a Nissan Leaf, like a 2-year-old Nissan Leaf, is going to have to charge at GAN on the CHAdeMO charger is if it's being towed by a Model Y.
So, Pete, actually, James, please don't sell that Nissan Leaf. Once we get a Cybertruck, we want to do that demonstration. Tow the Leaf to the middle of nowhere so it can actually charge up on CHAdeMO.
Yep.
And then drive it as far as it can go, and then get footage of it being put back on the trailer so it can go to the next place.
Do you know, I actually looked at getting a Nissan Leaf from my mum in the UK, because I reasoned that even getting the box that allows you to use the battery as a stationary storage battery was actually cheaper than getting the same equivalent number of Powerwalls. But I never did it because it was just too hard. But
well, it would have cost you £5,000, Richard.
$10,000, $12,000 here in Australia.
Yeah, sure, but the cars are cheap. So
yeah, for very good reason. We're coming up against the 2-hour limit in about a few minutes, so we've got to wind this down, unfortunately, so we can post it on X. But go on, Pete. You were going to say something?
Oh, okay, just really quickly, another big gripe about that Joondalup charger. Had they put it one bay to the right, the charger could have been installed in the big island that's there, and you could have had a drive-through configuration. Such a missed opportunity. Like, who designed this? Who didn't think to put it in the...
People that are putting them in have no idea what they're doing.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah, it's just it's on that video that I put up on X. I've got a good angle of it, but yeah, you could have had a trailer, the trailer accessible charger, because it's already in the middle of the car park. So or if they were insisting on having it where it's located, they could have not had the curb there, and they could have had those big bollards in a different position and still allowed, maybe sacrifice the bay and still allowed pull through or drive through, so that you didn't have to unhitch to charge. But yeah, another stupidity.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just as a quick, excuse me, just as a quick reminder before we actually go or wind out or outro, is the Highland event is this Friday between 5:30 and 7:30. If you haven't gotten an email, look at our Facebook page, which is Tokwa's Facebook page, and you'll see the event and the link to do it to get an RSVP. So please, if you're at all interested or curious about the Highland Model 3, your best opportunity is this Friday night. After that, of course, it will be openly available at the showroom, I guess, starting on Saturday and onwards. So please do come to that event. Again, make sure you are a financial member of either Tokwa or Toka. Alrighty, Pete, how would you round out an awesome show like this?
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve.
The best way to do that is buy a Tesla, preferably a Cybertruck, join Tokwa, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Have a wonderful week. Look forward to seeing you on Friday, of course, and also at the casual meetup straight after at 7:30 at the Osmond Park Hotel. Have an awesome week. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yes.
Night.